What's up, everyone? It's Gaijin Gamer here, back with episode 4 of Mid Gaming Kings Raid 2021, and today we'll be discussing meta teams in Kings Raid. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Alrighty, everyone, and before we get started, I just want to give everyone a heads up that it's April of 2021, and that this list is subject to change if there's any hero, rebalance patches and/or character releases, as they tend to shake up the meta and oftentimes replace many of these selections as the game kind of moves into the future. So if you don't see the character you're looking for, that may be the reason why. But without further ado, we'll just kind of hop right into it. And now, just before we also get started, I just want to cover what I mean by meta. I just feel that these characters will be best as far as kind of the mid game, as well as progression in the end game, as well as it'll just give you the easiest way to progress through Chapter 10 as well, if you kind of build some of these teams kind of similarly to what I'm talking about here. So without further ado, we'll get started with the DPS slot. As of right now, I do believe that these are the 4 best physical DPS in the game. We have Panzeroni, Rebel Klaus, Dark Lord Castle, as well as Chase. Now, they each kind of have their ups and downs. Panzeroni is just kind of like the all-around, probably best choice, if I'm being quite honest, as far as physical DPS goes. However, Chase is also a generalist and pretty great in all content, but just kind of not the best in any content either. Just something to keep in mind for Panzeroni, she doesn't need attack speed, so she doesn't scale, at all with attack speed. So keep that in mind, and all these characters need to be built with 100% crit rate. Rebel Klaus needs 1,000 penetration. Dark Lord Castle, he's pretty easier. He's easier on the requirements when it comes to stats, but just keep in mind that he does not need Black Dragon armor, as he does not use mana. So that's something to keep in mind. Is kind of unique to him. And then Chase, he doesn't use lifesteal, as it's kind of disabled when he's in his little god mode. And you want to make sure that maybe you'll include a line of recovery or two, as that's what he scales with. All of these characters can be used in like any of the content mid-game, as well as any of the Chapter 10 raids. Panzeroni and Dark Lord Castle both have heal rate reductions, so something to keep in mind. But yeah, all of them are amazing choices. Just one thing is that Chase kind of falls off when it comes to damaging content. So if you want to keep that in mind, or choose to build one of these other ones, and maybe use Chase as a off DPS when it comes to Gory, it's just something to keep in mind. Next up, we got the physical tank, and Shockmay, in my opinion, is kind of the king of the physical tanks right now. Loman as well as Klaus are good options. However, they're definitely considered off meta, just especially when Loman is so high of investment to build, as far as being an NPC and requiring NPC weapons to really kind of fully unlock his kit. I also do believe that Shockmay, even when fully built, is probably better than Loman, just due to the nature of the way his soul weapon works, as well as some of his other mechanics, such as heal reduction, as far as the current content in the game as to this point. So Shockmay is the tank, and then we've got just a few healers here that I would consider best in the game, and you can almost consider Estelle a healer as well, and you really could if you'd like. But we have Fallen Frey, who's definitely the best healer in the game. We have Rahartna, and we have Shay. Now, Shay is kind of the X factor in here, where you really only want to use Shay if you have a unique weapon 4-star or above, just due to the way her kit works. And another thing is, for Fallen Frey, you'll definitely want to make sure you get her unique treasure for up to 4 stars as soon as possible. Like, I would even prioritize this over getting my main DPS unique treasure up all the way, just due to the fact that you'll have 100% uptime on her shield, which gives everyone just CC immunity as well as just a fat shield, and just really don't need heals if you're able to have her shield and she doesn't get dispelled. So she's just quite an amazing character. Literally between her and Estelle, I'm not sure which is better, especially for a physical team. But yeah, she's quite crazy. Also, moving on to supports, we have Estelle, or aka what I like to call her, Bestel. Ever since she's kind of been launched to the game, especially for physical teams, she provides a 40% shred, she provides an amp, her soul weapon is crazy, it provides boss damage at A2, as well as a physical amp at A0 and A1, even more so. She provides an attack speed buff, mana buff, like it's just all these sorts of amps, like melee and ranged amp, like it's absolutely crazy what she brings to the table. It's nuts. So she is definitely, definitely best for both magical and physical as well as Fallen Fray. It's absolutely insane. And then we have Gao. Now, as far as the six-man team goes, depending on what content you're running, I would run one of these main DPS. For Chapter 10, we have Shockmay as our tank. We have these, Fallen Fray, Rahartna, and depending if you have Shay 4-star, unique weapon, maybe I'd include her, and I would include Estelle. So that would be my 6. However, if you're lacking stuns or if you're lacking, just some sort of damage, I would probably use one of these DPS. We have Shockmay, we have Fallen Fray, Rahartna, Estelle, and then I would use Gao. And he could be interchangeable depending on if you have, Shay's weapon or not, as well as if maybe you need some stuns or a mechanic that good old Gao will bring that Shay doesn't have. Just a few, honorable mentions here. We have Cecilia, Gladdy, we have Crow, we have Roy. And now these are all great choices. However, they get edged out by all of the competitors above. I firmly believe that. But they're still excellent to build just for everyone's SA. As well as we have Klaus. He's a great free-to-play option. Same with Roy. They're both free-to-play. If you're still trying to build a somewhat, meta-relevant team, these are kind of off-meta still, but still good free-to-play options to use. And then Loman, just due to the fact that he is NPC hero and needs a bunch of NPC weapons to really unleash his full power, it can be difficult to obtain. So that is why Shockmay beats him out. Lavril was great until she got replaced by Estelle. She's still great though. She gives the crit damage, scaling even for, as well as penetration as well. So still great to have. We have Evan, who's great. We have Priscilla as well as Nyla, and they're all great in their own respective rights. However, they're just kind of get edged out to all of the teams above. So without further ado, we'll just kind of hop over the magical team. If you have any questions about, why I chose certain things, just make sure to include it in the comments below. So let's hop over to magic. Alrighty guys, and now moving on to the magical side of the house. And now, in my opinion, this side of the house is a little bit more difficult to judge due to the fact that there's less of a definitive, best team or core team in my opinion. I feel like the lines are a little bit more blurred, and there really could be different combinations that work better in a lot of situations, more so than in physical, because they just have such great heroes just across the board in the game. So we'll just kind of go through this. First off, we have starting off with our magical DPS, and we have Gremory and Lucikiel, and I do think these two are far and away the best two magical DPS in the game. However, I did want to include Lorraine and Rapine in here. Lorraine just because she has such high viability and she's free to play in Galgoria as well as the rest of the game. She's just such a great character. She provides so many stuns as well as a heal rate reduction, as well as these two do as well. But she's free to play and you get her from the beginning of the game. I just kind of want to include her in here because she is so awesome. But also we have Rapine. In my opinion, she's kind of lower in my eyes due to the fact that she requires an auto include, which is her brother Rahit down here. And in my opinion, they don't really have AoE damage minus Rahit, as well as they're just kind of lackluster overall. I mean, they're great. They do some good damage. However, they just they don't have the wow factor, that the rest of these heroes have, in my opinion. Next on, we'll kind of move on to the magical tanks. And we'll cover Mora. I do believe that for mid game especially, that Mora is probably the best tank, just due to the fact that she's so good at Galgoria with all of her heal rate reduction and all of her stuns. Like, she's really quite amazing. However, I do feel like Jane is pretty great as well, especially with the rebalance and her amp increasing, as well as just the way her mechanics work now. I feel like she's also vying for a top spot. I do feel like Naraxis could work here as well, depending on the situation you're looking for. But especially with his non-hero damage layer. However, I just wanted to include these two for the top slots as of right now. Next time we'll move on to our heals, and now we pretty much have the same exact heals for the same exact reasons, so I'll just briefly cover this. We have Fallen Fray, we have Rahartna, we have Shay, same stipulation if you have a unique weapon a 4-star or higher that she's usable. Otherwise, Mei is also good, but due to the fact that she's an NPC, she's also kind of brought down as well. However, you don't really need hers as invested to really kind of come alive. If you just have her on a just one unique weapon, she's still pretty good. So I decided to include her here. As well as for our support, we have Bestel for the same reasons, where she doesn't have the same support capabilities as she does for physical teams. She's just so good that she is still included on magical teams, even not including the the amps that she provides, as well as the shred that she provides for physical teams. She still provides boss damage, so keep that in mind. As well as attack speed, mana, just so many aspects, as well as like a melee or range buff depending. So she's still an amazing hero and auto include on magical teams as well. And then we have Lavril, whereas she wasn't that great on a physical team and she's been replaced. She's still pretty viable for magical teams due to the fact that she amps magical teams as well as her soul weapon amps as well. So it's just something to keep in mind. And then we have some honorable mentions down here. In my opinion, we have Syria, we have Artemia, Theo, Hilda, Kurzi as far as main DPS go. They're all great. They just kind of get edged out by the characters above, and honestly, like maybe Theo kind of moves up. I don't know. You could honestly argue for any of these to kind of be above like Lorraine, especially. It's just the fact that she kind of has lower damage, but her utility is just so crazy. Then we have Celica for a tank, especially for World Boss. She's got a pretty good amp, but nowadays I think Jane kind of provides a similar level of amp with her soul weapon and her new skills. As far as the rebalance goes. And then Neuraxis as well, I mentioned him above. Honestly, he may even still be up there. In fact, I'll probably just include him, that he's still pretty good. Like any of these three tanks, you really can't go wrong with, but I do feel like Moore is the strongest choice, just due to the fact that she provides so much utility for Galgoria. And then we have Annette, who's kind of been phased out recently. And then we have Audie, who provides, cooldown reduction, and he'll kind of be included later on. We've got the last part, which will be World Boss, which is kind of a different dynamic than all of the game entirely. And then we have Visca as well as Yuria with all of her rebalance changes is amazing as well. So, like I said, if you kind of disagree with anything or are wondering my logic as to why I'm picking some of these selections, like I said, I feel like these kind of just provide the best way forward for both physical and magical teams as far as most of the content goes. But without further ado, let's hop on to the World Boss. Alrighty, and just to end the video here with a real quick World Boss section, I just wanted to include some basically auto includes in World Boss teams. As you can see, we have Audie, we have Priscilla, and we have Veronica. Now, the reason why I say they're auto include is because the first two, they have cooldown reduction. And if you don't realize how important that is in the game yet, you'll quickly realize that as you kind of start doing the World Boss. And if you have either of these in your team, you'll be able to see how much damage they could really enhance your main DPS when they're able to kind of, just get the main abilities they have off cooldown super quick and be able to cycle those during when all of the damage periods are up, when you pop all your soul stones, you pop all of your amps, and then you're just able to use your abilities twice or three times. It's absolutely insane, and these guys provide so much. As well as Veronica, she kind of provides like boss damage, as well as some other a ton of attack buffs. She provides a crit buff, and she provides like she builds up over the time as you're doing the World Boss as well. And honestly, she can even be included when you're doing kind of like a team's later game too, because you just start to need less heals as far as like raids and stuff once you get the gear for it. So she's pretty amazing as well. And another side mention, that Audie's pairs up really well with Panzeroni as well. So just even on a 6-man team, you may want to consider including Audie on it, just due to the fact that she has such high cooldowns and she does so well with cooldown reduction. So yeah, I hope you guys liked today's guide. I hope you guys either disagree or agree with me. Just let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk about it. But without further ado, I'm Gaijin Gamer, signing out.